this. They did a little callback to the tryouts, auditions for a movie. Like they've done that in the past, and they did a really great skit years ago, tryouts for Star Wars that involved some great impressions of actors reading lines from Star Wars. Well, they did the same kind of bit, but it was for the movie Shades of Grey. You know, the S&M erotica.
50 Shades.
What'd I say?
You just said Shades of Grey.
Oh, 50 Shades of Grey. I'm sorry. I didn't want to, sell the other 49 short.
Right.
But and that was kind of funny. Kenan Thompson doing Steve Harvey was worth checking out. So that's probably available out there somewhere until they pull it off the air.
That's speaking. What's your best impression? What do you think?
My best impression? I don't know. One of my go-tos is always Sean Connery. I think most white guys do Sean Connery, right?
I don't do him.
Oh, Money Penny.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Is that
or
pretty much?
Gentlemen, welcome to the Rock.
That's not bad.
Which
by default means you can do Bane. You just need like a Dixie cup or something like that and speak into it.
Yeah, unfortunately I don't have a Dixie cup, so I can't really try that right now. But
no, I would say probably the only one I can do would maybe be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, your Arnold is well renowned.
Stay cool, don't freeze, and it's really only like the Batman version that I can do.
Oh, let me try that. Chill out.
Yeah, see?
It kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Of course, I can always go back to maybe Predator. Get to the chopper if you want to leave.
Hey, I like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those cheap ones that I think, now talk about one that anybody can do, I think that's probably it. I'm going to work on them, though. I'm thinking about trying to do possibly maybe some Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton's good.
That might be a good one.
Yeah, what do you think? Maybe something for me to try. What do you think?
I'm thinking something along the lines of possibly maybe Chow Yun-fat, Chairman Mao, Idi Amin would be a good one for you. Possibly Nelson Mandela.
Okay, well that's an interesting range of characters. I'll have to work on those.
I would probably work on Chow Yun-fat first because I'd like to hear the Cantonese version of him first. And then if you go into a little Mandarin version, that'd be great. And then him kind of speaking in broken English as a kind of a finisher. That's going to take some time, I think.
Yeah, well, I'm really dedicated to the craft of impressions, as you know. It took me years. I mean, I've been working on that Sean Connery for years. Okay,
and it shows. It shows.
Yeah, good. Now, if I could just get past those two, only two lines I say is Sean Connery, then.
But those two lines sound just like him.
I believe in just.
And I want to be clear, ladies and gentlemen. Sean Connery was not in the room a few minutes ago. That was Chris doing an impression of Sean Connery, because I could see people kind of maybe skipping through and hearing that and being like, "Whoa,
they got Sean Connery."
They got Sean Connery. Well. Which wouldn't be a bad plug, actually, for the show, to say, hey, this week we got Sean Connery. Come to specifically about the 32-minute mark and just right there, and then cut it off immediately after you hear him.
I'm getting really excited about this. I'm feeling it. I got one more line.
Okay.
The feel of a shoot.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Also from The Rock.
So pretty much the Rock and just the single line from Bond.
Right. Oh, Money Penny.
Okay. No, now just to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, that was Chris.
Okay, and it's Chris again. I'm back. I'm back. It was I was Sean Connery for a second, but now I'm back.
You should see the transformation. I mean, kind of looks like him and everything. It's amazing.
My golf game improves. It's crazy.
That was a pretty that was a pretty long segment for two. We'll go through a couple of things quickly here. I did see the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 2, which I thought was cool. If you haven't seen it, well, I'm going to assume you have seen it, because at the end of it, we have a visit by Samuel L. Jackson himself as Nick Fury, which was pretty cool. And kind of already starts into what I thought they would be doing with this, and bringing in the star power. But honestly, I mean, the show, I like it. I'll probably continue to watch it, but it's got a little bit too much of that Joss Joss Whedon feel for me. I enjoyed the Avengers, don't get me wrong, but I've never been one of those guys that have been like Firefly is the greatest ever.
Hush your mouth. Sorry, I'm not either. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, or Buffy.
I've got I understand where you're coming with that. I liked Firefly, and I saw the Serenity movie, and I had no problem with it. I mean, I find it reasonably entertaining, and Buffy is the same way. I've seen some Buffy and over the years, and not bad, but there is that little campiness to it,
right?
And I used to watch the show Angel, just because Charisma Carpenter is it. And by the way, Charisma Carpenter, very attractive young lady,
very attractive, one of my favorites. She was in Expendables and Expendables 2, so right.
But there's always that little campy element to it.
Didn't she play like the wife of Jason Statham?
Yeah, it's Jason Statham.
That bitch. I swear.
Yeah, you always hold that against her. Yeah. But she's attractive.
She certainly is. We did see Gravity, which we're going to get into, and I saw Getting Doug with High, which is on YouTube, and he's also going to release it as a podcast as well. He's the comedian from the show Doug Loves Movies, the podcast, if you've heard that. And he had on Jenny Slate, who famously said fuck on SNL, I think in one of her first shows. She's also in Parks and Rec, House of Lies, and she was on The Kroll Show. And it's basically him and a guest sitting around and getting high and talking. Honestly, I wasn't all that impressed with the show. I think it's a bold step as a show to kind of sit there and get high and talk on YouTube, which was happening anyway, but now it's out.
Well, this is Doug Benson, and this is the guy who did the kind of spoof of Super Size Me.
Yeah, Super High Me,
which I've seen and actually liked. I like Doug Benson. I think he, I'm a listener to the Doug Loves Movies podcast. I just heard the most recent one this morning, actually. And I think he's got a good format with that show. He kind of feeds off of his guests. When he has good guests, it's a good show.
Right.
But I also think that he's the kind of guy that I find him a lot more humorous when I can see his expressions and stuff. And some of that gets a little bit lost in the podcast. But the man's got like 6 podcasts or something. So
he's got a ton of stuff going on.
He is the king of podcasting. So he's got something going on, right?
Yeah.
So keep up good work, Doug. Now you saw this Heroes of Cosplay show this week. Now, had you seen that before?
I had not seen it before. I wanted to check it out, because we actually have a business idea that has to do with cosplay, which eventually we'll talk about and get into. But no, this is the first time I'd seen it. I don't know if your impressions were what I thought.
Yeah, when I saw what I saw, and I did not see a full episode, but I ran across it in my channel surfing and did tune in, watch the end of the show. I didn't really get it, but maybe I'm missing the appeal of that. Now I have been to the cons in the past where I love seeing people in their costumes,
right.
But I've never really felt compelled to do that. So maybe I'm missing something there.
Well, the girls are kind of hot in it, which is nice.
Oh yeah, we should stop and mention that the women are hot.
Yeah, the women are hot.
Very attractive young ladies.
Very attractive. But it's when it boils down to it, it's one of those typical reality shows where they kind of manufacture the drama. And the one I watched, it had like pros versus amateurs. They went into a kind of a smaller town, and they were competing against just local amateurs, and the local amateurs got real upset. And you haven't seen a fight until you've seen a huge nerd fight between cosplayers. So in other words, it wasn't much of a fight at all. It was just a bunch of cattiness and crying. I think they borrowed the music.
It wasn't much of a fight. I mean, with all the weapons that they carry and stuff.
Well, they were all made of foam, so.
Yeah, but you still think they'd take a swipe.
Well, they would break on impact. So.
Yeah.
I mean, this wasn't LARPing; it was cosplay, which is a little different from what I understand. But they borrowed the music from, I think, every other reality show. And then there was a nerd judge dressed as Doc Doom on there. And he just didn't look very menacing, so he had the helmet off, and I'm like, if Doc Doom looked like that underneath his helmet, it would be very disappointing.
Now, was this contest? Was it held in Latveria?
Actually, yeah, the small town of Latveria, and there was, like I said, there was a lot of locals there, and it just didn't go over very well. Maybe it would, I could see, and Doc Doom got pretty upset. He's very protective of the people of Latveria, and he did vaporize them, which was pretty cool, with his hand lasers. So that kind of...
And he's known for a short temper and, not, being afraid to vaporize people. Okay, I can see that. The League, moving on to another show here that I know that we both enjoy.
Right.
Perhaps, I don't know, one of my favorite episodes of The League in 2 years at least, Rafi and Dirty Randy episode. They go off on their own adventure, which if you watch The League... some great, comedic talent starring in that show, Nick Kroll, Paul Scheer, etc. But our Jason Mantzoukas plays Rafi, he's kind of a side, he started as kind of a side character, but really over the last couple of years, he's become probably the funniest character on the show, I would say.
Yeah.
And his friend, Dirty Randy, who's appeared on at least a couple episodes, played by Seth Rogen. Now, this episode featured the two of them on a road trip that, I'm just going to say it right now. We need a spinoff of Rafi and Dirty Randy. We have to have a spinoff.
Oh, I have to wonder if it was a setup for that, but it was definitely one of the best shows of The League that I'd seen in a long time, which is weird to say since it only featured Rafi and the Dirty Randy character. Now, I must mention at this point, we have mentioned everyone in the How Did This Get Made podcast so far, with Paul Scheer, June Diane Raphael, and Jason Mantzoukas. So we've run the gambit on them. And
we've even mentioned a few of the common guest hosts of that show as well, like Doug Benson and Nick Kroll.
Earwolf, are you listening right now? Because I'm just saying, we knew it's like these guys are family.
And I'm just going to say, Earwolf, if you're listening, hey, the whole podcast land thing, I'm open. I don't have to go with that. I'm just kind of trying some things out. Just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it, and I agree with you that I think that a spinoff may be just around the corner. I'd like to see it.
I think that would be brilliant. I would love to see that.
Now, I did see a movie that we saw together. I watched it on the small screen. I won't go into it a whole lot. Pacific Rim. That movie is not as good on the small screen. Of course, I'd already seen it a couple times prior, but if you missed it in the theaters, you really kind of missed the experience of the movie. It just did not translate well to the small screen. So hopefully they'll do a re-release or make a sequel. Now, this ended up, they kind of called it a bomb when it came out, but it did very well overseas. I believe it's maybe the first $500 million bomb ever made. It made a ton of money in China. I believe it did well in Japan and in Europe in general. So I have a feeling that we might actually see a sequel come out of this. I've seen worse movies with sequels.
Oh, I really like the movie. I didn't see it on the small screen yet, but I can understand where some of that visual appeal would definitely be lost on a small screen. But, it's a pretty simple story, but it's kind of an homage piece, and I think it worked. And I think the performances were good in it, and visually it was amazing. And I just want to say, what do they call the big monsters? The
Kaiju.
Kaiju,
yes.
Yeah. There's a couple of the Kaiju that are very attractive. So, no, I'm just kidding.
And just one last thing that I guess, unless Chris has something after this, we talk a lot about TV and movies, but I've also been playing the GTA 5, the Grand Theft Auto, which is a pretty cool game. I don't know if you've played much of those in the past. I've
not played the new one, but I'm familiar with the franchise. I've played some previous versions. So, how many hookers have you slept with and then killed?
I lost count after 26. So
now is that before or after you started playing the game? I'm just kidding. I was a little joke there. Sorry.
Well, I was getting worried for a minute. I thought you might have. I thought I masked the smell pretty well, but I thought I might have given it away. Actually, I got one more thing. Do you have anything else?
Just going to mention one quick thing.
Okay, sure.
And another thing we don't talk about much on the show here is sports.
Oh, yes.